Yo, what's up guys, Jack here, and today I've got something really cool to show you. As you can see, it's a very pretty gaming PC setup. Now before we start, I want to be clear and say that I'm under absolutely no obligation to make this video. Nvidia sent me this as a gift. I don't know why, I think they're mad, but this isn't a sponsored video. I've not been paid a fee to make it or anything like that. And also, I'm very lucky to have been given this, so I just thought, damn, like that looks good. And I thought that I should share it with you guys and show you some performance numbers. Now, I've never owned a PC like this before. It's kind of scary having it, to be honest. It's like one of those ones that you see at an exhibition on the show floor or on an enthusiast website. It's actually built by Scan PCs as part of their Nvidia BattleBox line, and the BattleBox line comes in all shapes and sizes at various different PC builders and retailers, and it basically means if you see the BattleBox sticker, it's a PC that's ready for 4K gaming. And so we also have this next to it, a 4K gaming monitor. This is the Asus PG27AQ 4K G-Sync monitor. It's a bit of a mouthful, and I'll be using this whilst playing on this PC, and we're going to get into the specs of that after we take a more detailed look at the PC. So then, what sort of hardware do we have in here? Well, the case is the Corsair Obsidian 750D with a custom white front plate with the Nvidia logo and BattleBox sticker on there. Very nice. It comes with a Window 2, which I have off at the moment, but there will be some clips of that later. The power supply is a Corsair Modular 850i. Plenty of power in there, and modular means that we only have to plug in the cables that we need and don't have excess mess. The motherboard is an Asus X99 Deluxe, all the features and expansion slots that you'd ever want on there. It's got some great overclocking features as well. We've got two graphics cards in here as well, two Nvidia GTX 980 Ti's working in SLI. That's the bulk of the horsepower that's going to be providing games at 4K. The CPU is a 6-core Intel i7 5930K overclocked to 4.4 GHz, 16GB of DDR4 Corsair Vengeance 3000 MHz memory working in quad channel mode. And this little baby here is very special. Although it looks discreet and kind of weird, I've never actually owned one of these before. It's a PCI Express solid state drive. And you might be thinking, what? I didn't even know they existed. Well, apparently they do. They're quite a new thing. And it's called the Samsung SM951. It's got 512GB of space on there, maximum read speeds of 2150 MBS, and maximum write speeds of 1500 MBS. It's insanely fast, and it's got Windows 10 installed on it. I've also installed a Samsung 1TB 850 Pro Performance solid state drive in the back of the case, which you can't see. There are some hard drive slots attached to the backside because, of course, the hard drive bay has been removed and replaced by this ridiculous water cooling unit that's cooling the system. This thing is awesome. We've got EK water blocks on both graphics cards and a unit on the CPU as well. It hooks back up to the radiator at the top of the case and flows through in a big loop. The benefit of a water cooling system like this, of course, is that it's going to be a lot more effective at cooling our GPU and CPU, meaning we can overclock them more and keep everything within acceptable temperatures. And it looks pretty awesome too with the white LEDs. It's just a really pretty clean system. Very nice indeed. Alright then, let's take a look at the monitor. As I said, this is the Asus ROG PG27AQ 4K G-Sync monitor. Sounds like the start of a rap battle or something, and it looks amazing. I've used a couple of other 4K monitors in the past, but there's been problems with input lag, colours, but this really takes the cake. Battlefront on this monitor is beautiful, and I'll show you some footage of that later on. Now, this monitor isn't actually out yet. It should be available soon, but again, super lucky, Asus sent me this over to play with, and it's packed full of features. First and foremost, it's got an IPS panel, which means that colour reproduction and viewing angles are brilliant. A resolution of 3840 by 2160, which is our 4K standard. It's 27 inches, which is probably the biggest I'd go for a PC gaming monitor, a maximum refresh rate of 60Hz, and it's also equipped with G-Sync, which is perfect for the sort of frame rates that you'll get on a system like this running games at 4K. In layman's terms, G-Sync is great because it eliminates screen tearing and input lag by dynamically changing the hertz of the monitor to match the frame rate of your game. It's an elegant solution to a problem that's been around for a long time in PC gaming, and it works great, and it basically gives you a really smooth gaming experience. In terms of inputs, we've got DisplayPort and HDMI, so you can hook up a console or other device if you want. Also a couple of USB ports on there too. The screen can be rotated if you fancy that, and also has a built-in overlay crosshair that you can add for when you're playing Battlefront with no HUD on and want to shoot stormtroopers in the face. Something that's really cool about it too, it turns off and on almost instantly. Most monitors that I've used in the past have like a little warm-up period, but this one is just like bang and it's straight on. Very cool monitor, but keep in mind that this is ultra high end and enthusiast level and very expensive. You should only buy a screen like this if you know that you've got the horsepower in your gaming PC to deliver playable frame rates at 4K, which of course is a great segue into our next section, the performance of the PC. So as I always do with these sorts of videos, I don't like to run benchmarks and stick numbers and graphs in your face. I'd rather show you gameplay so you can see for yourself. I'm running games, you can see Fraps there in the top left hand corner, and I've actually enlarged it so it's a bit bigger. Here we've got some Battlefront in multiplayer, absolutely maxed out, ultra settings running at 4K, and it doesn't bat an eyelid from 60 FPS. It's just a constant 60 FPS, which is great, and it looks really incredible. The nighttime version of Endor in particular with the HUD off, just look at it, like it's bordering on photorealistic at times when you run it at 4K. Obviously, it won't look as good on your screens right now if you're watching on a mobile or a normal desktop, and I've rendered the video at 1080p 60 FPS, so it's not native 4K that you're watching it at, but it is actually recorded in native 4K, if that makes sense. But in the flesh, honestly, it's just unreal. Like the level of detail in the leaves, the trees, the lighting, the textures, it just blew me away. And I can just spend ages walking around the forest just looking at stuff, not even playing the game. Next up, GTA 5, another game that looks great in 4K. Not as realistic looking as Battlefront, and it's definitely more stylized, but it still looks pretty nice. The PC port of this game looks good and it's well optimized. You can see the frame rate in the top left hand corner there as I'm driving around the city, averaging around 65 frames per second. And for me, like if I hadn't already played Grand Theft Auto 5, I think playing it on this PC, hooked up to that monitor, with a controller, just laid back, would be like the ultimate Grand Theft Auto 5 experience for me. Moving on to Crysis 3 now. This one performed the worst out of all the games I tested, with the most range in frame rate, dropping as low as 30 at times and as high as 60 in other places, averaging around 40 frames per second. Crysis still brings the most insane systems to their knees, but there's no doubt that Crysis 3 is still one of the prettiest looking, most detailed games available to play right now, and that says something considering it's an older game. The amount of high detail textures and lighting in this game is really something to behold. And finally, I couldn't do a hardware video without testing Battlefield 4 now, could I? So here we are on Shanghai and Golmud Railway on a 64 player server, all maxed out at 4K on ultra settings, and you've got an extremely cinematic experience. Frame rates hold well at around 70 to 90 frames per second, depending on how much action is going on around you. Really nice to play this on a G-Sync monitor too, with no input lag at 4K. Like I said, previous 4K monitors I've used have always had problems with input lag, but this one absolutely kills it, and you can actually be competitive in it. You can still aim. Now, of course, other games like CSGO, The Witcher 3, Fallout 4, etc. will all run very well on a system like this. The SLI 980 Ti setup will destroy most games at 4K, and it seems like finally, if you can afford it, I know it's incredibly expensive, PCs have the power now to consistently deliver good frame rates at 4K resolutions, and trust me, they look incredible when you see them for yourself. If you're at a game show or a convention or an exhibition, whatever, in the near future, and there's either like a PC gaming company or a hardware company there demoing games at 4K, go and take a look. Trust me, you'll be like, holy crap, that looks good, I'm serious, like go check it out. There's a couple more things I wanted to show you here too. I've never used Windows 10 before. I'd actually tried it on this system, so I had a bit of fun playing around with it. I'm glad that they brought back the start bar, and it loads extremely fast, especially when coupled with the PCI Express SSD. But one of the coolest things you can do with it is hook it up to your Xbox One, if you have one, and stream games from your console to your PC over your network. Seems like everyone is doing this nowadays, but here's me playing some Halo 5 on my PC. Kind of. You can't use mouse and keyboard yet, but if you've got an Xbox controller either plugged into your PC or wireless to your Xbox One, it's going to work. And I have to say that it works really well. There's no perceptible input lag and it looks okay, but of course, as it is with all of these streaming devices, the game doesn't look as sharp as if you were playing it on a TV or monitor, because what you're playing is a video stream. And most people would probably just have their Xbox next to their PC monitor and plug it in there anyway if it's got like an extra HDMI port. And finally, check this out, that PCI Express SSD I told you about. I wanted to show you this. You're looking at Dxtory, and Dxtory is a program I use for recording my gameplay sometimes. You can add hard drives to it and select where you want to record your gameplay to. So what I've done here is make a folder on the PCI Express SSD and a folder on the SATA 3 Samsung 1TB SSD I've got plugged in the back, which is a regular SSD. Now check out the difference in write speeds. This is real-time performance here. So the 1TB regular SSD hits around 481 MBS, which is very good. And with that sort of speed, you can record 1440p 60fps gameplay without any hiccups. Now the PCI Express SSD, boom, nearly 1500 MBS, which is just crazy to me. That is ridiculously fast. And I reckon that I could record some sweet ultra slow motion 120 frames per second stuff on that bad boy if I wanted to. That's just absolutely nuts. Having a boot drive with Windows 10 on it that quick means that it literally loads up in an instant. And also any programs like Photoshop or Sony Vegas or any games that you've got installed on there will load super fast too. And also file transfers, if you need to move stuff around, you're not going to have to wait for 20 minutes. What a beast. Obviously, I'm stoked to have this PC. I think it looks great and the performance speaks for itself. I'm not trying to show off here. I just wanted to share it with you guys because, like I said, I think it's a very nice build and it's not often that you get to play around with a system like this. As always, thank you for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one.